Squad! Ladies and gentlemen, on Saturday night we witnessed Derek Chisora and Deontay Wilder engage in an absolute slugfest at the O2 Arena in London, and Deontay Wilder came away with a points victory, which was probably the last outcome that I expected for this fight. I went in thinking, right, Wilder is either going to knock Chisora out or get knocked out, and I was heavily favouring him getting knocked out. Definitely not winning by points. That was not on my 2026 bingo card of boxing. So let's get into it. We'll start with the decision itself. I think the right man won on the night. It was definitely a very messy, a very sloppy fight. Like I said, it was a slugfest, but I definitely think the right man won. Chisora certainly had his moments, but throughout the entirety of the fight, I'd say Deontay Wilder was definitely landing the cleaner shots. Now, I will say, when the first bell went, for the first couple minutes of the first round, I was pretty nervous about how this fight was going to be. Chisora was looking quite slow. I don't know if the extra weight that he had on this time maybe played a part. Chisora's not exactly lightning fast, but he looked slower than usual tonight. Wilder was also looking slow, with an extremely wide stance, so he was getting backed up to the ropes very quickly and very easily. That was probably my main grievance with Wilder throughout this fight, with just how easy he was letting Chisora back him up. I know Wilder isn't the greatest back foot fighter, but I do feel even he still could have done more to stop Chisora pushing him back, and that wide stance certainly wasn't helping. But yeah, both guys were looking a bit slow in the first round. It looked like two guys who were in their 40s and were past it, which both of them are. And then suddenly Wilder backs Chisora up against the ropes, and nearly WWE style, they are going over the ropes, and then a member of Chisora's corner jumps in the ring to try and separate them because the referee hadn't yet. Which, for those of you that don't know, that's illegal, and Chisora could have been disqualified in round one because of his corner, which would have been an awful way for his career to end, on a disqualification because of his corner. But thankfully, because the referee was awful and just wasn't doing his job properly, he didn't call that a disqualification and just waved that member of Chisora's team away and allowed the fight to continue, which, again, in normal boxing is an awful call, but for this fight I will let it slide because that just wouldn't have been a good way for Chisora to go out. But this awful referee will be a theme in this video. This was a very hard fight to score round by round because, as I said at the beginning, it was a very messy, sloppy fight. Both guys were falling over each other multiple times throughout the night, which, you know, shows both of their ages really. But the early rounds and going into the mid rounds, I definitely say that Wilder had the cleaner work despite Chisora having some good moments and hitting Wilder with some good shots. And just on that, I think what we have to give both guys credit for is they have got hells of chins. Both guys took and landed some big shots on Saturday night. Wilder in particular, I think we need to give credit to, because everyone knows how good Chisora is, but Chisora landed some really good shots on Wilder and they didn't really faze him. Wilder wasn't ever really that hurt throughout this fight from what I could tell. So I think we need to put a bit more respect on Wilder's chin, especially at the age that he's at. In the sort of late mid rounds, Chisora was coming back and doing some of the better work and was starting to outland Wilder at times. But then we come into the 8th round, which was one of the craziest rounds of boxing that I have ever seen. And for a moment we saw the old bronze bomber come out when Wilder clocks Chisora with a good right hand. Chisora tries to clinch and push Wilder back into the corner, but Wilder's not having it and he's just throwing right hands just like the old Deontay Wilder would do, and has Chisora rocked, and Chisora goes stumbling back into the opposite corner and Wilder's just throwing like 8, 9, 10 right hands in a row. No one else would ever do that, only Deontay Wilder. And the speed suddenly was looking better, he was looking sharp, the feet were looking better for a moment, because throughout most of the fight Deontay looked like Bambi on ice. He looked like he had 2 left feet, but for that moment we had the laser accurate right hands with the speed that we all remember, and the foot speed was better, and he pushes Chisora into the corner. Chisora's backed in the corner against the ropes, and Wilder says "I love you" to him, and Chisora says "I love you" back, and then unleashes the right hand from hell onto Chisora. Chisora falls down. And again, going back to the awful refereeing decisions, Chisora's corner are helping to push him up from behind the ropes. Again, illegal. Should have been a DQ. The referee clearly sees it and just lets it go. This was a theme throughout the whole night. The referee was so biased towards Chisora. And it was a concern that I did have coming in, which really I should have voiced in my last video, that as the fight got closer, I was thinking if this goes to points, even if Wilder did somehow pull off a points victory, they'll just give it to Chisora anyway, because Chisora's a national treasure. We're in the UK, it's his hometown. And as much as I had Chisora picked in my prediction, I didn't want him to win via robbery. Now, on the subject of the knockdowns, these knockdowns have been quite a hot topic of discussion, and this is the way I see it, right? Chisora went down a few times in this fight. I want to say he went down twice in the 8th round, and then he went down again in the 11th. And he went through the ropes both times, by the way, so I don't know if someone needs to have a chat with whoever put the ring together, because the ropes were really loose in that. The first knockdown, when Chisora was backed in the corner, Wilder definitely landed a right hand. That was a legit knockdown. The second time, Wilder was deducted a point for pushing when Wilder did not push Chisora out the ring and was deducted a point for pushing, and clear as day he did not push Chisora. And with the way the scorecards were, because of where the fight was and who was judging it, that could have potentially changed the outcome of the fight, which would have been a tragedy and an awful, awful robbery. But I'm so glad it didn't go like that, despite this referee's awful work. I genuinely think this referee needs sacking. It was an awful performance. One of the worst refereeing performances I've ever seen in my life. And then Chisora went down in the 11th, and I do think a punch did cause him to start tumbling, but then there was a little bit of a physical situation which ended up having Chisora fall through the ropes again. But that was more on Chisora than Wilder, in my opinion. And now let's go to the Deontay Wilder knockdown, which when you slow the fight down, clear as day, no punch landed on Wilder. Chisora misses widely. The ref wasn't even in like camera shot when Wilder slipped, and Chisora was stood on Deontay's foot, which caused him to fall down because, as I said before, Deontay's got 2 left feet most of the time. And the ref calls it a knockdown. Awful decision. And again, we're lucky that that didn't alter the outcome of the fight. Now we go to the fighters' post-fight comments. Wilder obviously over the moon. This is arguably one of the biggest wins of Wilder's career, which I don't know how much that says about Wilder's resume, considering one of the best wins of his career was Derek Chisora, well over the hill in what I hope will be his last fight. I don't want to see Chisora in the ring again after that. But Wilder's giving all this, I'm back, the division's been boring without him. And then at one point he said that he went easy on Chisora because he wanted Chisora to live for his family and his kids. And I'm just saying now, Deontay Wilder did not go easy on Derek Chisora. There are definitely points in there where I'm sure a lot of people were asking, why didn't he throw more punches in this spot and this spot? But that's not because Deontay went easy on Derek. That's because the guy's 41. He isn't going to have the output that he used to have when he was 31, for example. And then Chisora's comments. Chisora stated that if the ropes hadn't been so loose, then he would have won the fight because they wouldn't have been scored as knockdowns. And unfortunately, I do think that would have been true, as I think if the ropes had held him up, they still should have been classed as knockdowns, but I don't think the ref would have because of the clear Derek Chisora bias that he showed in the ring. Again, absolutely awful refereeing. And Chisora didn't sound like a guy who wanted to end his career there, but for his own sake, I really hope that he does. There's already been quite a deterioration in his speech over the last few years, and I don't want to see that getting worse. I'm hoping that Chisora's not going to get worse from where he is now, even without fighting. But Chisora's got nothing else to prove, you know, the guy's a national treasure. Over the last 20 years, Chisora has fought everyone. Because let's go down Chisora's resume for a second. Keep in mind, he hasn't won all these fights, but the point is, Chisora is the definition of have gloves, will fight. Chisora has fought Tyson Fury 3 times, Robert Helenius, Vitaly Klitschko, David Haye, Malik Scott, Kubrat Pulev, Dillian White twice, Ajit Kabayel, David Price, Alexander Usyk, Joseph Parker twice, Joe Joyce, Otto Wallin, and Deontay Wilder. That is one hell of a resume. Again, he didn't win all these fights, but the point is he had a good go and gave pretty much all of these people problems in the ring. So Chisora, retire. You've had an amazing career. career, you've got nothing else to prove, you've earned your money, enjoy retirement. And I'm sure there's still always going to be a place for Chisora in boxing, whether it's as a pundit, a manager, promoter, whatever he wants to do. There's always going to be a place for Derek Chisora. He's one of the most entertaining characters boxing has ever seen. So he will be missed, but Chisora, it's time to hang it up. And Deontay Wilder has made it very clear throughout the build-up that win or lose, he wasn't going anywhere. But since he has won, Deontay Wilder has got options. The three biggest options being as follows. Fabio Wardley, big money option for Deontay. The original Deontay Wilder, or the man that is being called the Ipswich Deontay Wilder. Because there are comparisons that you can make there. Both not the best technically as boxers, but both have got the equaliser in their tremendous power. Obviously, Fabio Wardley has got to get through Daniel Dubois first if that fight was going to be made, but I would probably lean Fabio to win that fight. Alexander Usyk, as crazy as it sounds, originally at the start of the year, Alexander Usyk was the one calling for a Deontay Wilder fight, and Fabio Wardley was going to be fighting Derek Chisora. And then Fabio Wardley got a fight with Daniel Dubois, and Derek Chisora fought Deontay Wilder. But Alexander Usyk called out Deontay Wilder for a fight. Usyk has a fight in May against the kickboxer Rico Verhoeven. Trust me, there's a video about that coming at some point. So if, or who am I kidding, when Usyk gets through that fight, he could potentially fight Deontay Wilder. And the last big option, which is the option that I think makes the most sense, and I think everyone would love to see, Deontay Wilder should be fighting Anthony Joshua. It makes perfect sense for where they are, and I think if we don't make it soon, then it is never going to happen. It looked like it was never going to happen after the Day of Reckoning show, where Deontay Wilder lost to Joseph Parker in the co-main event when Anthony Joshua beat Otto Wallin. But now, it really looks like it could happen. Anthony Joshua lost to Daniel Dubois, took some time out the ring, came back, had that fight against Jake Paul, obviously suffered that awful car accident, RIP to both of his close friends, Lats and Sinner. So we don't know where AJ is now mentally or physically. And Deontay Wilder, an older guy who does pose a threat, because we saw tonight he still does have some power in his right hand. Is it the same power he had years ago? No, because he doesn't have the speed he had years ago to throw it. But he still does have some power there. But I think that's the perfect rehabilitation fight for Anthony Joshua. It's a massive fight. There is still some risk. The build-up would be phenomenal, and we'd finally get Joshua versus Wilder. Way past when we should have got it, but I think I'd rather get it past when it should have happened than not get it at all. And looking at it from Wilder's point of view, Wilder is now ranked quite highly in, I want to say, the IBF. So if Wilder beats Anthony Joshua, Wilder could be looking at getting what he wants, a world title shot. Now, do I think Wilder beats any of the people that I've named? No, I don't. But could he beat them technically? Yes, he could. Anyone with Deontay Wilder's power has a chance. So that's the fight that I think should be made next. Whether it realistically can be, I don't know, because I think AJ wants to get out before the end of the summer, so whether Deontay Wilder can have another camp in that quick of a turnaround at his age to have a fight with AJ in the summer, because AJ wants to obviously have the Fury fight at the end of the year as well. I don't know whether AJ Wilder realistically will happen, but I would love it to happen, and I think it would make perfect sense for both guys at this stage in their career. But yeah, those are my thoughts on the fight. I'm going to do a separate video about Vidal Riley, because that was an amazing performance that I think warrants its own video. I've got some more content coming this week about the Tyson Fury fight, so stay tuned for that. But that's the end of this one, guys. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye, guys.